Thank you again to all of you for joining us. My name is Joey Thurgood, and I'm the ACEs Prevention Specialist for the Utah Department of Health, the Department of Health and Human Services. We're still getting used to that. We just merged with Human Services at the beginning of this month, so we're still getting used to that new language. Nathan, Malin, and I are positioned in the Violence and Injury Prevention Program, and we are kind of the leads on the Essentials for Childhood grant, which is a grant focused on ensuring safe, stable, nurturing relationships and environments for all Utah children. And we know that in order to do that, in order to ensure that we can provide safe, stable, nurturing relationships and environments, we have to take a two-generation approach. We have to make sure that we're meeting the needs and acknowledging the barriers and finding the help for parents, because healthy parents raise healthy kids. And so today's presentation is going to be focused on different programs that are available throughout the state that are focused on engaging parents in upstream approaches that will help strengthen their families and in turn strengthen their communities. You're going to find as you hear about these presentations, some of them are available to everyone statewide, and some aren't yet, but are in the process of being tested and formed so that we can see those go available to the entire state. So we're super excited. We're going to jump right in. At the end of the event, I will talk about the evaluation. I will talk about continuing education and what you need to do. I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to, I believe our starting presenter is Tricia Reynolds, and let her begin. She's going to take about 15 minutes. After that, we'll turn the time over to Barbara Levitt with Help Me Grow, and then we'll talk to Vonda Jump Norman, who is with the Better Together program. Rather than doing introductions, I'm going to put in the chat just kind of a handout that gives you their bios and their contact information, so you can reach out to them if you are interested in learning more about their programs or becoming a partner. So without further ado, we'll turn the time over to Tricia. Feel free to give yourself a brief introduction, and we look forward to what you have to say, Trish.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for hosting this. I'm really excited to be here with everybody and share some of the resources that I work on to help strengthen parents and families. It's weird not to see people. I feel like I'm talking to myself, but welcome to the nature of virtual work. So just a brief introduction about me is I'm a social worker by background. I've worked for the Child Welfare Agency, DCFS, for 17 years in various capacities. Right now, I'm serving as the Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention Services Administrator. So I like to explain what that means, because I don't do any of your traditional child welfare work. I work with the community, with nonprofits, with faith leaders, with other government agencies that are helping to strengthen families long before they ever come to DCFS. So my goal is to put the rest of my agency out of business. Big goal, probably not going to happen in my lifetime, but that's what we're all working towards, is not needing a child welfare system, but having a stronger community. I'm a mom myself. My kiddos have some special needs, so it's been a fun year of trying to access services and really learning about the system from a different perspective. So I've appreciated that experience. Here's my cute kids, and one of them is home today, so we may or may not have a visitor. We'll see. And then a fun fact I like to share about myself is that I've actually won 2 cars in my life, but I do not have time to share with you how I did that in a 15-minute presentation, but it's a bribe for you to stay connected with me and, send me an email and I can tell you more about how I won 2 cars, and then we can talk about strengthening families. So that's my hook for you. I just like to give a brief overview of what we mean when we talk about prevention when it comes to child abuse and neglect. So you may think of prevention as being keeping kids out of foster care. That's a lot of the work that DCFS does, is when they're involved with a family who's been struggling, they will work really hard to keep those children in their home with their family and wrap services around them. That's going to fall in this tertiary prevention land, when abuse and neglect has already occurred and we're working to strengthen and rehabilitate that family and help them so that doesn't happen again. That is not where I work. I work in primary and secondary prevention. So if you're not familiar with that, it's a little more upstream. And what it means is strengthening the whole community and providing resources to help parents so they never even approach DCFS's door. Okay. So it's kind of a unique place that I get to sit in the agency, and I love working there. What I'm going to share with you today, my goal is for you to leave with some tools in your tool belt to help the families that you work with and serve from the 5 protective factors framework. Now this is a really in-depth training that can take many hours, many days. The protective factors has a lot of great tools with it. This is the briefest of overview to orient you with what the 5 protective factors are. And why we work so hard on these protective factors is it's hard to prove that the work you're doing with families prevents something bad from happening, because you'll never know if it doesn't happen. But what you can prove is that you've strengthened families in these 5 areas. And we know that families who are stronger in these 5 areas are less likely to engage in abuse or neglect or other problematic behaviors. So this is how we do prevention work. I have a couple federal grants, funding streams that I run and distribute to the community to different programs, and they are all required to implement the 5 protective factors into their work. That's how we know that the work they're doing is actually working, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of each of them, and then there's a lot of text on these slides, but you will have a copy of these slides so you can have them to access for later. But my goal is to just give you a couple suggestions of how you can work with the families that you serve to improve these areas. So resilience is the ability to bounce back. I feel like before COVID, this one was kind of hard to understand, but hopefully now that we've all lived through 2.5 years of the world we live in, I think we all have a full dose of what resiliency means. And it's all those little interpersonal skills and internal skills that you have to keep going when times are really, really hard. And the families that we work with actually tend to have a really high resiliency skills because sometimes they've been through really difficult times and they have found amazing coping skills. So just having those internal skills of problem solving, self-care, self-regulation, managing your emotions when you just want to pop off, those are all resiliency skills. And so ways that you can support families that you serve in improving their resiliency is helping them create a growth mindset rather than feeling like problems are fixed and they can't control anything in their circumstances, or really focusing on their strengths and telling them what they're doing right, creating a space for giving them choice and opportunities and building that self-confidence in the work that you do. Helping them build resiliency in the setting where you see them will help them practice those internal skills that can be applied in their family as a whole. The old way of thinking was really, oops, I put let's see, can I go back? Oh dear, there we go. We used to think that the harder you work, the more successful you were and the happier you became, but there's really a new set of research and mindset for us to understand that you actually get happier when you're doing your best. Happiness is the reward we get for doing our best, not from working overly hard. Sorry, I said that backwards. We become more successful when we're happier. So it starts with that positive mindset that helps you strengthen your resilience. Okay, the next protective factor is having a strong knowledge of child development. And I think this is one that kind of comes naturally to understand that if you understand child development more, you're less likely to engage in abuse and neglect behaviors. So what that looks like, I'm not going to go over that for the sake of time, but one interesting fact I like to share is that parents, the time of a child's development that parents are most likely to engage in child abuse is during potty training years. Anyone that's ever potty trained a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old knows how frustrating that can be. And so just having the skills that parents need to know what's appropriate for toilet training and other difficult developmental milestones helps their family be stronger. And so here are some things that you can do in your everyday work to help parents have access to appropriate developmental support. One of them is Help Me Grow, who's here, and Barb's going to share more in depth with you about what her program does and how it can serve families in our state. The CDC has a lot of great free materials. You can actually request that they send you some free materials to give out to families you serve. They have developmental storybooks, they have growth charts, they have all kinds of things that will help the parents you work with learn more about child development, growth, things like that. The third protective factor, I'm trying to keep an eye on time, I gotta hurry, is families having concrete supports in times of need. So concrete supports are safe and appropriate housing, transportation that's reliable to get families where they need to go, access to health insurance, things like that. When families don't have safe and stable housing and they're spending all their time and energy just trying to put food on the table, that creates stress in a family. And so with the Violence and Injury Prevention Program, we work really hard on economic security initiatives to make sure that policies are in place that help strengthen families through, different tax credits and things like that. So this is much bigger than just individual family. It also applies at the community level. Oh, I didn't have a slide for what you can do, but what you can do is connect with 211, and I'm going to talk more about a special page we've created on 211 specific to parenting, but that's a great place to go to connect families with resources. The fourth one is having positive social connections. Makes sense, right? The more isolated we are, the more at risk we are, the more connected we are. Those really help strengthen families. There's some interesting stats that a lack of social connection heightens your health risk as much as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. That's a really powerful way to look at how important our social connections are. And so this is a huge thing you can do with the families you serve to serve them in the long term, is help them make and find and maintain stable, healthy relationships. And that can be challenging, especially right now. There's research that says the single biggest thing that helps kids recover from trauma is a stable, supportive adult who believes in them. And so by doing this, we're actually helping break those intergenerational cycles of abuse and neglect that sometimes perpetuate themselves. And then the final protective factor is having children with strong cognitive and social emotional competence. And so making sure that kids have the language they need to express their emotions and their needs, that kids have strong and secure attachments with their parents, and access to the services they need to get additional support if needed in those areas. And Help Me Grow can really help in that area as well. So again, here's some things you can do in your work to help children improve their social competence, their cognitive competence, learning about self-regulation skills, mindfulness, breathing. All those things are protective for the whole family. Okay, I'm going to wrap up here after that quick overview and share with you some concrete resources that you can take with you to help families. We do Family Strengthening Month every April. It used to be called Child Abuse Prevention Month, but this year we decided to change the language to one of more positive, strengthening, and what we're trying to build instead of what we're not trying to do, if that makes sense. So these are some resources that you can use all year long, not just in April, to support your work. We created a toolkit of talking points, messages about strengthening families. I won't go through it for the sake of time, but you can take a look at that. And there's a lot of great social media posts that you can use if your agency has social media accounts that connect families to resources and messages of support. The governor signed a proclamation for Family Strengthening Month, and so that was exciting for us to have his support with our efforts this year. We did a lot of press releases and had a lot of positive media attention about the work that we do, and so this will link you to one of those articles. And then the two big things I want to share is our new parent portal on 211. So if you've ever been to 211's webpage, you'll see they have all of their services grouped on their main page by category. And I was in there once and noticed there's no category for parents or families. which is funny because we have the highest percentage of children of any state in the nation and the youngest population. So we definitely have need for services for families. So we worked with 211 to build a new site on their page. And if I click, does it take you to my web browser? Okay, perfect. So it's right here at the top of 211 parenting resources. And what we did was group all these resources by those 5 protective factors that I just went over with you. So if you're a parent, or even if you're a professional trying to help a parent, you can come in here and say, oh, my client's struggling with those concrete supports. They're struggling with housing. And then we pulled over all the 211 resources that were already existing elsewhere on their page into these protective factors. So you can click through and find tons of resources. And then at the bottom, learn more. This content is all brand new to 211. And they link out to articles or national websites or TED Talks or worksheets, just different sorts of hands-on things that will help parents. Financial education, there's some free courses that people can take on money management. We do a lot on how to ask for help, because part of this is not just knowing where to get the help, but being willing to ask for it. So there's some tools to help parents, decrease the shame surrounding asking for help. So there's a lot of things on here, and it's very new. We just launched this in April. So there's a lot of room for growth for this as well. So if you get in here and you're like looking for something for a family and you notice it's not here, please just click contact us here, and you can make suggestions. You can suggest other resources you're aware of. And this will just continue to grow over time. But please share this information and get the word out there to parents. This is available. And then the last thing I wanted to show you is a fun, how do I get back to my presentation? Oh, I know where it is. Okay. We partnered with a local nonprofit called My Discovery Destination to design a statewide scavenger hunt activity that families could do in April for Family Strengthening Month. And what's fun is that My Discovery Destination does this all year long. So this is something that you can download on your phone right now. You download this free app called Goose Chase on your phone, and then you enter a code to join the game. So if you want to see what we did for Family Strengthening Month, that was just a 1-month challenge that's already passed, but you guys can still have families access that and play. They just won't get points for the prizes that we did, but the activities are still very beneficial. They're all designed around the 5 protective factors. So each challenge kind of connects families with a new resource they might not know about, or challenges them to do a strengthening activity with their family and post a picture. So check it out. It's really fun. You can do it with your own family. You can share it with those you serve. And then this is the ongoing one that My Discovery Destination does. I didn't design it, but it's awesome. So you can play all year long, and they give points and prizes too. So that's just some ideas of some actual resources you can use with families. And then this is my contact info, and I have a mailing list that I would love to add you to, and I share resources like everything I just shared. I send out training opportunities and new resources that I hear about for families and professionals. So if you are interested in getting that, just you can click this in the slides that Joey sends out, and it will just email me that you want to join. So that's all I have. And I think are we taking questions, or returning the time over to Barb and then questions at the end?
I think we'll hold off on questions until we get through the presentations. I've asked people just to put their questions into the chat, and then we'll address them after the presentations and before the case study.
In case there's any questions. So thanks, everybody.
Perfect. So now we're going to hear from Barb Levitt. I'm going to share her slides. So give me just a second to pull that up, and go ahead, Barb, and start introducing
Okay, and let me tell you just a little bit about myself. I'm actually a transplant from LA. I raised my kids for about 22 years there. And during that time, I actually graduated with a business major and ran a business for 25 years with my husband. But during that time, I was very, very involved in my school system, then in my community, then in my city, and I had a lot of opportunities to be a parent leader and then a parent advocate, and then worked professionally to support and represent parents in committees. So my whole focus and my passion is supporting parents. And coming from that background, I realized that there's just so much information out there and it's just overwhelming and it's hard to access it as a parent. And so I really wanted to see something that would give parents something more simple where they could connect and feel supported as parents. And so when I moved up to Utah, I actually was able to work in an early childhood committee that had been in Utah County for over 20 years. And there was always the discussion as to what do we need to do to connect the parents to the resources. There's something missing. And so out of that, because we were facilitating it, you can advance it, Jody. As United Way, we facilitated that council. And so we determined that because we had a 211, maybe we could go and look for a model that might work. And we found one. It was in Connecticut. And it was just the beginning of Help Me Grow. It had only been replicated in one state, or actually one county outside of Connecticut, and that was in Orange County. And so we got to know the national leader very well. He came out to Utah in 2012 and saw what we were doing. And they really helped and assisted us to be able to implement that national model fully in our state. And we were the third state in the United States to have a live line. And now there's just, I think it's up to 36 states that now have Help Me Grow. I'm not sure. You'll have to ask my staff. I'm not as good on keeping up on those numbers. Okay, go ahead, Jody. So I'm going to tell you what Help Me Grow is. Basically, what it is it's a universal information and resource network. It's a support line where families can connect. They can find out about community resources. They can be introduced to a screening tool. They can also be introduced to some information resources also. We support parents prenatally up to their children, with their children through age 8. But I will tell you that we've never turned a parent away. We usually will refer them on to 211 if they're out of that range, because we just can't help them as well as we would like. And we also provide services in English and Spanish. Yeah, there we go. Keep advancing it. Go ahead. And basically, the way that we're set up is we have a central access point where we have parent support specialists. So this is a live human being. On the other side, I was just calling today for my mother's utility bill, and I went through 4 menus, and I thought, I am so sick of these menus because I could never get to someone. So at Help Me Grow, they get a live person, it's a parent support specialist that's assigned to them, and they work with that family until that family feels like they've received the services that they need. And then a family can just jump out of Help Me Grow, but if their child is still in that period of time, 0 prenatal to 8, they can jump back in and get resources. So we try to be that very bottom level of prevention where families can jump in and jump out when they need help and they know where they can go. And as Tricia talked about concrete supports in times of need, one of the most important things we need in communities for prevention is for people to feel like they can connect into something and ask for help. And so we try to provide that through Help Me Grow to those parents. Okay, do you want to move it along? We've had several parents that have given us a lot of, Joey, can you? Yeah, we do run a parent survey every year. And so we collect a lot of quotes from parents. And one of them is, and I'm so glad that this parent felt this way because we do genuinely care, but they seem to genuinely care about my child and my family. And they have connected us several times to offer support and check if we need any additional resources. So when a parent comes in, we have a protocol of trying to reach them at least 3 times, either by phone call or by email or by texting, or eventually we send them out a letter. And it's really interesting because we've sent out parents, we haven't been able to get a hold of you. And so we're just going to go ahead and close your account, but you're welcome to connect with us anytime. You can call this number. And we have parents call back and say, oh, no, don't take me off the record. I still want to be on. I still want to be involved. I'm just so busy. And that's the issue with parents. They're busy. they're so busy and they have so many things that are pulling at them that a lot of times development is the least of what they're thinking about. So we hope to improve that by giving them support and then introducing information to them so that it's so they feel like it's digestible and that they can use it. Okay, Joey, would you advance the slide? We worked with about 2,800, actually almost 2,900 families and about 4,400 children last year. And we had one-time interactions with about 20%, but as you can see, 81% were enrolled. And enrolled means basically they are in our system and we reach out to them and make sure on a regular basis, if they're engaging with us, we reach out to them. And usually it's sending them a screening tool or sending them information or just checking to make sure things are going okay if they've asked us to check back within a certain period of time. Okay, then Joey, again, I know I need to move it along, but most of our families, Help Me Grow is set up as a model that it has the central access point, but it also has community outreach and provider, child health care provider outreach as part of it too. And so we receive a lot of referrals from providers who are looking for a place to send families so they can find more resources, or if they don't offer screening, then they can come to Help Me Grow. We don't want to supersede any organization that's doing screening. We want screening to be done within the context of a relationship. So if you have a relationship with your client, then we want to be able, we don't want to supersede that. We just want to be that place where if you don't know where to send them and you don't know where to go, that you can send them here, or you can also call us yourselves and we can create a list of information that you could share with your clients. So we're just helping those who are helping others also. Okay, Joey, do you want to move it along? So basically we're connected into the 211 resource database, and we also add additional resources that are not within their, they're not in their inclusion exclusion policy, but we have them earmarked in the system of Help Me Grow, for Help Me Grow. So our parent support specialists can see those resources and they can share them with parents. So we have a ton of resources, not only in a database, but you can advance it, go ahead, Joey, but we also have a lot of informational resources also. And I wanted to read this quote by a parent that said, thank you for your service. When we were concerned about our daughter's hearing, you guys helped us get an appointment so that she could have her hearing tested. And then they found out that she had fluid behind her ears and she was in surgery the next day. So this parent didn't know where to go, and we were able to direct her. And once they were directed, they were able to take it over. And that's a big part of prevention, is being that place where they can land and then they can move forward with their own skill sets and their strength. Okay, do you want to advance it, Joey? I'm sorry. And we do have a lot of informational resources also. We've spent a lot of time gathering well-vetted information, and we actually have a blog for internally for our parent support specialists. And we send this information out to parents also, because sometimes, a lot of times, parents need more information. They're not going to qualify for a lot of programs, but they need that information, and just that boost of receiving that information can build their confidence, can build their understanding, and they can do better. The next thing that we really, I wanted to share this because, no, keep going, I'm sorry, one more. The parent said it's a perfect companion to parenthood, but we had a mom who we did a social media campaign, and this mom did a little video, and basically she said, I know I have a village, but where is the village? How do I have a number to the village? Well, there is a number to the village, and that's 211 and Help Me Grow. You can get to 211, you can get to Help Me Grow through 211, but more importantly, you can call directly, or you can text us, or you can go online, or they can enroll. We have multiple means of connecting into us, but that's what we hope, is that we are able to move people, we're able to be a place where parents can land. One of the important things that we do, and we've been doing for a long time, is screening. If you'll advance that, we offer, this is the referrals that we made. I just wanted you to see the top 10 reasons for community referrals. It's really interesting. Maternal health. This is in the last year. Autism spectrum, communication, and behavioral. And then 5th is basic needs. So we're a place where families who, it may not be their basic needs that they need. That can a lot of times be a transfer over to 211, but they're looking for resources to support them in this amazing and difficult journey of parenting. Okay, Joey, do you want to advance it? The next thing that we do, and I'm going to talk about, is screenings. And I want to go through this quickly because I know we're short on time, but we offer 4 types of screenings. The first type, if you'll advance it, is we offer the ages and stages. Actually, this shows the number of screenings that we have actually done in this last year. And then advance it, Joey. We do the Edinburgh, which is a maternal mental health screening, and we only offer that. We offer it as a place where if a parent can't get it, they can come to Help Me Grow, and they can have that screening. They'll work with the parent support specialist, and then we have protocol in place as to how to address those concerns. Joey, go ahead and advance. And this mom said, this Edinburgh screening helped save my life after my daughter was born. And I think that having communities where people, even when they don't even know what they're experiencing, because a lot of times they don't, but they have a place that's safe and they can ask for help. And then having screenings that can help us to fine tune where we can send them is so powerful in the prevention model. And so that's why we do a lot of screenings and provide a lot. And all of the screenings that we offer have come as a result of working with many, many partners to bring them into the state, and on recommendation from many of our state partners too. The next one, as you can see, we've offered several prenatal, we've offered more postpartum than we have prenatally, but we offer it both. And if a parent calls in and it's prenatally, then we'll offer them the Edinburgh screening, and then we automatically sign them up to receive the screening in 6 weeks after the baby, and even sooner if they would prefer that. And then we also set them up automatically and ask for their permission, obviously, to receive the screenings on their child, so that we're continuing that continuum. And I think a lot of times when mothers screen, then they understand, oh, wait, yeah, this has been very helpful. This would be great for my kids too. Okay, Joey would. And this just shows some of the information that we give when we do a screening and all the different types of things that we have set up to address it. We have lots of protocol and lots of training for our parent support specialists so that they know how to deal with different issues and how to get people to the right places in the community. The next screening that we do, if you'll advance it, is the ages and stages. And there are 2 screenings that we use in the ages and stages. One is the general, and one is the social emotional. And both of them give parents a really good idea. It was written for parents. It's a parent tool to understand what's happening at a certain stage in a child's life. And if they're within that norm of milestones. And this service is for everyone. It's for everyone. It's a universal service. And so the ages and stages general is the one that we do most often. And the ages and stages social emotional, we offer at 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years. And yes, if a parent is concerned about a child, if they don't know where to go and they don't have any resources already, then they can come to us and we will funnel them back out into community resources. We can also provide this screening, and we can share it with their pediatrician or their child health care provider. Help Me Grow is really a system to make sure that we're all connected, because that's what helps families, is everyone in there, everyone working together. Okay, my time is up, but I want to tell you about one more screening that we do, and that is the MChat. And we do that, we do that very rarely. We don't do it as often, but we were asked by children with special healthcare needs to take that on. And so we have been doing the MChat for the last 4 years. And that's another screener that we are now working with some health entities also to do more care coordination there also. So those are all the screenings that we offer, but really what it comes down to, and this is what I love with the National Director of Help Me Grow, he said that Help Me Grow is really collaboration, and we hope that we're collaborating with everyone in the community and everyone out there to provide parents some kind of a streamline to what the needs that they have. All right, thank you.
Thanks so much, Barb. Barb wasn't able to get through all of her slides, but you will have a copy of the slides so you can kind of see some of the rest of the information she presented. And now we'll turn the time over to Vonda.
Sorry, you have to remember to unmute, huh? Can you see my entire slide there? Okay, so I'm here to talk to you guys about our Better Together program, which is a program that is funded at the Family Place, which is one of our family support centers in the state. And it's located we have 3 locations in Logan, Hiram, and Smithfield. The Better Together program was funded by the Utah legislature through the Department of Workforce Services. And we were not able to offer the program in Spanish, but we were able to get funding through Utah State University through the National Association of County and City Health Officials for the Juntos es Mejor program. So we have this program together both in English and in Spanish. And I guess I should tell you guys just a tiny bit about me. I'm a professor in social work at Utah State University in Brigham City. And then I'm also the director of our Better Together project at the Family Place. And we developed Better Together because what we noticed and really wanted to work on is the importance of the caregiver child or parent-child interaction and relationship. And we know through the adverse childhood experiences literature that what happens in the first 18 years of life has an impact beyond those first 18 years of life and can positively or negatively impact our health throughout the rest of our lives. So in recent years, we've learned more about positive childhood experiences and their impact, their long-term impact on our well-being. And so what we wanted to do was combine the knowledge about ACEs with the newer research on positive childhood experiences to promote resilience. And what we wanted to do was develop a program that has a lot of fun for parents and their kids, because we know that it's easy to get into a rut with parenting and not necessarily think about some of the easy things that we can do, those low hanging fruit sorts of things we can do just to have fun with our kids. It doesn't take a lot of money. It just takes us and our kids, to be honest. And our recipe for success is combining food, family, and fun. So our Better Together class and our Juntos es Mejor class, they're divided into 4 actual programs. So we have a program for families with 0 to 2-year-olds, 3 to 5-year-olds, 6 to 11, and 12 to 18-year-old kids. For the Better Together program, because we're funded by the Utah legislature and we are collecting data on families, families can only enroll currently in 1 class for 1 more year. And then after that, they could join any class they wanted to join. We meet via Zoom for 6 weeks, and that's every other week of our 12-week class. And then we also have 6 weeks worth of material on Canvas, and that's an online secure platform where parents get to share with each other. In our Zoom class, what happens is for the 0 to 2-year-old class, we meet for 1 hour. The 3 to 5 class, we meet for an hour and a half. And the 6 to 11 and 12 to 18-year-old class, we meet for 2 hours. So we begin our classes at 5:30 and we start with dinner and table conversation. We are all DoorDash delivery drivers. The night of our classes, we meet at the family place, we get materials together. Katie, our program coordinator and basically co-director, she and the rest of our team have gotten all of our materials together and we deliver them to each of our families. We take dinner and then the evening's activities. So we start with dinner and table conversation for the first 15 minutes. And parents can decide to use these questions to talk among themselves with their family members if they want to, or they can just have their normal dinner conversation. After dinner at 5:45, we actually begin the program, and we begin with an energy check-in where each of the family members gets to talk to everybody else in the family about their energy, whether it's high, medium, or low, and whether they feel comfortable or uncomfortable or somewhere in between. Basically, how are they feeling about their energy? And then we move to mindfulness using mind-body bridging. And mind-body bridging is an evidence-based program where we engage our senses to basically keep ourselves in our big mind, or our thinking mind, our mind where we're really functioning at our best. And what families do is they learn how to talk about some of their challenges, their problems, difficult situations with each other using mind-body bridging and their superpower senses. They get to have a fairly structured way to talk about some of their family challenges. And then they have an opportunity to use their senses to bring them to the present moment and then think about that same stressful situation. And typically what families find and individuals find is that they feel so much better after they've engaged their senses. So they learn that they can use these strategies all the time. Then we move into our class activities, and our goals for our class activities are, first of all, promoting that eating dinner together and promoting the fun interaction between parents and kids. We get into so much of a routine sometimes of we've got to get soccer practice, we got to get our clothes going, we got to get homework done. We forget to just have fun. And the purpose of Better Together, part of the purpose is to just have fun. We also help parents learn about kids' development, and we want to promote kids' development. We ensure that our activities are age appropriate, even though they're available for the entire family. So it's not just that the parent and whatever age children, like if they're in the 6 to 11 class, that only those family members are there. This is a program for the entire family. And we find that all family members tend to be quite engaged in the activities for each of our evenings. We take materials for every family member as well. And then we try to keep things simple. Like I say, it doesn't take much to facilitate kids' development and to have a strong, positive child relationship. And that's what we do, is we focus on the simple things. And we had the best compliment recently from a parent who's a professor at the university who said the program is just so simple. And that's the best compliment we could ever receive, because what we want is that families continue doing this after the 12-week class. So some of our example activities are like a chop challenge. We take in like a few ingredients and families get to decide, parents and their kids decide if they want to do these activities all together as one team, or if they want to divide in a couple of different teams, and then they can add in any additional ingredients they want at their house, and they have time to make their masterpieces, and then they share their masterpieces. We also do a family grid drawing where we take in a picture on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and it's divided into 6 different like 4-inch squares. And then we have 4 by 4 little cards, and each family member, or however they decide to do it, gets to draw one section of that picture. And then we take like a black piece of construction paper or cardstock for them to tape or glue that onto, and then they have a family masterpiece that they've created. And then a third thing we do is the melt the ice game, where we freeze these tiny little rubbery animals in a piece of ice, and then we send a die and instructions, and the family members play this game. If they roll a 1, they might have to put the ice down their shirt to try to melt the ice. If they get a 2, they might be pouring salt on their piece of ice. If they get a 3, they might have to pass it to each family member to try to warm it up for each other. And again, the goal is to rescue their little animal. And that's one of our really most popular games right there. The families just love it. And then at the end of the evening, we spend some time where families get to have a discussion with each other with these discussion questions. And again, you can see what we're trying to do is promote this family cohesion and the relationship, and then really just the family unit overall. Then we do an energy checkout and a modulation activity, like another mindfulness activity at the very end. And then for our 6 weeks on Canvas, we have, the structure is that we have a different topic each week, and parents learn about that topic of development. And you can see here at the bottom the different topics that we have. 1 week is brain development, another one self-regulation, social emotional development, cognitive development, physical development. Those are the ones that everybody gets. And then for our younger kids, their families learn about language development for the 0 to 2 and 3 to 5-year-old age groups, and then about peer relationships for the 6 to 11 and 12 to 18 age groups. So they learn all about development for those age ranges. And then they also learn about developmental challenges that might arise and the impact of trauma on that sphere of development. And then parents get, I don't know, 10 to 15 to 20 strategies or ideas for ways that they might support their child's development. And then they have an opportunity to share in an online discussion with other parents in the class. And, that discussion usually is around, what are your child's strengths in terms of that development? Like, what have you seen? And how do you already support your child's development in that area? And what else would you like to do? So again, you see that we try to be as strengths-based as possible. And I'm just going to share a short clip here for you.
What is self-regulation? It's that ability to monitor basically how you're doing and to manage whatever it is that you're feeling, thinking, and doing. So your emotions, your cognition, and your behavior. It takes a while to develop, and we typically develop it through our interactions with other people. Dr. Dan Siegel says, in my office, I describe self-regulation as the amount of stress I can take without freaking out at someone. And I think that actually describes it pretty well. I'd love for us to think about the 3 components of self-regulation. One is the cognitive piece, which includes focused attention, so our ability to pay attention, to set goals, problem solve, take the perspective of somebody else, decision making, and that effortful control, remembering the rules and consequences when we're upset and still being able to make a good decision. Then we have
Okay, so that's just a short snippet of our videos. And of course, they're much longer. We have a total of, I think, 72 videos available, and not all of them have finished being, getting that cool artwork in there yet. But I'm just want to tell you a little bit about what we're learning. We have 134 families that we have data on. Caregivers average around 37 years old. You can see here that we have a very educated sample. 62% of our folks have a college degree or higher. And we have a fairly high income group as well, with 60% of our families earning $50,000 per year or more. It's something that I wanted you to know is our caregivers average 2.15 ACEs. And you can see here where the majority of those ACEs are. They average 3.5 positive childhood experiences as well. And our kids in our project, they average 9 years of age, and they average 2.24 ACEs. And you can see here what those are. And 57% of our target children are boys. We ask families to tell us which child they might be having the most difficulty with, or that's usually the one that they choose to be the target child. The outcomes that we have to date are, we see improved family functioning from the pre-test to post-test and 12-month. And then also improved nurturing and attachment at all of our time points after the pretest. And these are all statistically significant changes. And we see decreased harsh and inconsistent discipline all the way through after the pretest, or compared to the pretest, increased positive verbal discipline from the pretest to the post-test, and also increased praise and incentives. In terms of emotional availability, we see improvements from the pre-test, to the post-test, 3-month and 12-month, decreased parental hostility all the way through compared to the pre-test. And then we also have, in terms of our overall parental functioning, better outcomes all the way through for our parents using the outcome questionnaire. The thing that I like is that we're capitalizing on positive childhood experiences, and this is our team, or our 2 teams, I guess I should say. I think I was 1 minute late, so sorry.
No need to apologize. Gosh, you guys, this has been amazing learning about these programs. I was going to ask just a couple of sort of prepared questions for a few minutes, but in the interest of time, I would just like to, for the next 5 minutes, to open it up to the group to ask our panelists any questions that you might have about the services that they provide, whether they be about eligibility or reach or, that kind of thing. For instance, I'm going to ask Vonda really quickly. I know that this program, the Better Together program right now, is just available in Cache County. Are there plans for this to be replicated or broadened out beyond Cache County?
Yes, actually, the goal when the legislature funded this project was, if we found that it was a positive program that had good impacts, that it would be expanded throughout the state. And even if there were not funding through the state to actually expand it through our family support centers, we'll have a manual, and this will be open to anybody to use all of our materials. Videos will be up and ready for anybody pretty soon as well.
That's great to hear. Any other comments from the panelists, or any questions from the group that you may have for regarding any of the programs that you've learned about today? we've got just about 4 minutes for this part, and then we'll get into our case study. There's a question in the chat about Vonda's contact information. Let me drop the presenter file. You're going to get a copy of all of the slides, but also we have the presenter bios, which also have email information on them. So you should be able, let me know if this doesn't work, and I can reshare it, but you should be able to access that. That has bios and information. So a question in the chat, do parents contact you for the program? Like, how do you get connected with a family?
In Cache County, yes, they can just call the family place actually. And I can put that phone number in here, and soon it'll depend on if anybody else is using it throughout the state.
Okay, Barb, and you mentioned do you have kind of a varied way that parents access Help Me Grow. Sometimes it's parents reaching out directly, but sometimes it's through providers you mentioned. Can you kind of talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, and when you get my PowerPoint, then you'll have all the slides that tell you how to connect to us in multiple ways. But we do have at helpmegrowutah.org, which is our website, a parent can self-enroll right from the website. A provider can also enroll a family through the website. We also provide a texting platform that we use when we go out into community outreach, and we have parents text, and then they receive the screener through their phone, and then we connect. So if they've done a screening, then they come into us. We also have, they can call in. There's just multiple ways, but as a provider, you can send someone our way. Just go to our website, helpmegrowutah.org, and you'll see it. But also just look at my PowerPoint, because all of the, everything's on there, including a sample of the referral form that you would be filling out if you wanted to send someone. I would just want to mention here, Joey, our biggest goal would be to have word of mouth, our #1 reason and way that parents are connected to Help Me Grow. Because when a parent learns about something from another parent, it's just huge and increases the probability so much if they can, that they make that connection to that resource.
Excellent point. Thank you for that. Okay, if there aren't any other questions, we're going to move into our case study. Now, this is going to involve breakout groups, but before you leave, before you go, oh no, not breakout groups, I promise this will be worthwhile, because this is not only to demonstrate to you a case study that you can use with the partners within your coalitions that you work with to identify service gaps, to identify areas where, if we have certain families with certain needs, if they don't fall within eligibility or there aren't certain services available, that this gives you an opportunity to kind of work with partners to identify how to close those service gaps. And so what we're going to be doing is breaking into 4 groups. Each group will be facilitated by either Tricia, myself, Vonda, or Barb. And what we're going to do is present to you a case scenario. And what we're going to do is have everybody start out by reading the very first slide. We're going to do the first slide, and then you're going to drop down to the slides that have your facilitator's name on it. So Tricia's, we'll say Tricia's group on it, and you'll go to that section. I want you to finish the first page and spend about 5 minutes on that first page on identifying a few general resources, considering eligibility and things like that, based on the details you learn from the family's details that we provide. Then after you finish that page, spending only about 5 minutes, just in interest of time, facilitators, we want to spend about 5 minutes on that slide. Then we're going to jump to the second phase of case study, and that's where we're going to find out that someone has met with the family and have identified specific additional details that might open up this family to additional needs and additional available resources. And so we're going to go ahead and what I'm going to do is put this case study in the chat. Everyone should have it and be able to edit it. So if you're, so if you, the purpose of this, not just in practicing with the case study, is also as an opportunity to showcase something that you're doing. If you have a program that you currently do that would be of value to a family like this, we want to hear about it. Because when we do our report out, we want to highlight a couple of these programs, and we might actually call on you to tell us a little bit more about it. So we're going to spend about, I think, Nathan, are we doing 10 minutes in, let's see, I got to remember what.
15, but I can do less time.
Okay, I think that we've got, so we'll probably do about 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll do a quick report out at the end. So everyone should be able to access this link as an editor. And if you're not able to, let us know. Nathan's going to go ahead and put us into the breakout groups, and please log in there to that presentation, and that's where we will capture all of the recommendations that come from the breakouts. See you on the other side. All right, hello, sorry, it took my computer a minute to let me get in there, but I'm gonna go ahead and share, if I can find it again. I'm gonna just go ahead and share the screen for the case study. All of you should be able to access it and join in, and we're gonna start on slide number 1 with the case study description. So is there anybody who wants to read this to us, or anything like that? We're going to be dropping down. We're the last grouping of slides, so our slides will begin on slide 14 after we read the first part. Okay, I'll go ahead and read it. Mom and dad are just above 250% of the federal poverty level. That equals about $81,000 for a family of 5. Dad is working 2 jobs while trying to start his own business. They have 3 kids, ages 4, 2, and a newborn. Mom is dealing with postpartum depression, but her main concern is her 4-year-old's behavior. He's been having some temper tantrums. Sometimes they'll last for an hour, and seems to be much more aggressive with siblings. The child is verbal and able to express emotions, but doesn't show any impulse control to speak of. Mom's also worried about dad because he just doesn't seem like himself lately. He's had some periods of time where he just sort of shuts down and he's not responsive to her or the kids. She's feeling overwhelmed just with parenting in general and doesn't feel like she can add anything else, but feels like they really need to have some fun as a family. Unfortunately, they're unable to afford the different family-friendly activities available to other families. So they need more resources for things that they can do as a family, and they also need things that don't require a whole lot of scheduling because of the nature of dad's job. So let's drop down to our first slide, which is slide 14. So this is the instructions on this slide. And you'll also notice here at the bottom that we have some things to consider here at the bottom. As a group, think of 4 formal resources available to this family and try to briefly include specific contacts with orgs, the eligibility requirements, or how to apply. And we don't only want to spend about 5 minutes on this. So what are 4 programs that you can think of that might benefit this family with the details that you already know? So some of those details that we're thinking about are down here at the bottom. Key points to consider: their income level. Does that create a barrier to accessibility for some services? Mom's postpartum depression, impulse control issues for the 4-year-old, a mother who's feeling very overwhelmed, and limited resources for family-friendly activities for free or at a low cost. So any suggestions that we could put in these 4 little boxes? And if you have something, feel free to go in there and begin editing that slide there. Any suggestions you can think of?
Is it too broad to say to direct them to 211?
Don't think so. I think that directing to 211 is a good idea, especially Help Me Grow, right? So this program that we learned about today would be an excellent resource for them. Now, they also talked about not having resources for family, family-friendly fun activities. So even though right now the Better Together program isn't available outside of Cache County, that would be another excellent program for them to be able to engage in some family-friendly fun time that wouldn't have any cost for them. So I think that that is another really excellent addition to this slide would be the Better Together.
So with the one that Tricia mentioned about the app on Goose Chase, that's a
Destination.
lot of fun. I do that all the time with kids. It's a blast.
Very cool. Can we think of one more? Is there one more that we could think of that we haven't heard about today? And I'm asking this group, do you know of any programs that would be beneficial to this family with the details that you currently know about them? Is there another service that we haven't talked about today?
I don't know if it's a service, but when I have families that are looking for low cost activities, I always suggest the library. They usually do a story time, or they have Lego clubs. They usually have a toddler time, so they have toddler related activities. So there's a lot of really cool things that you can do at your library for no cost.
Very good. Excellent ideas. Perfect. I think that these four are really good examples of things that we would be able to do just to give them recommendations of places where they could go to have some fun, to do some learning together, and to build their family connections. So I think these are all really good examples. Now we're going to move to slide number 15. Now we've met with the family and we've learned some additional details that give a little bit more context to some of the things that are maybe creating barriers for this family. So new things we've learned. Dad is a survivor of child abuse and neglect, but has never shared it with anyone until he disclosed it with his wife. And she's tried to get him to speak to their pastor about it. Mom is overwhelmed with parenting. She feels inadequate when dealing with her children, and she's been feeling significant anxiety around caring for her infant. Dad grew up in severe poverty and has tremendous anxiety around food insecurity. This is driving him to work as many hours as possible, and he lives in fear of his children not having adequate food security. Dad also was a witness to intimate partner violence between his mother and father as a kid, and he's been having more issues himself recently with anger. He doesn't know how to handle it in a healthy way. He's a very supportive husband. He's an engaged father, but he's found it increasingly difficult to be patient and understanding recently. So those are our key points: history of child abuse and neglect and interpersonal violence, an overwhelmed and anxious mom, a history of some economic and food insecurity, and difficulty with anger coming from dad, which is concerning considering his past traumas. So on the next two slides, there are going to be 4 slides, and we're going to add formal and informal resources based on these details we've learned. We're also going to include information related to social connections and information connections. And we want to be sure to explore a range of resources, keeping in mind the whole needs of the family. We want to treat this family holistically. So if you have ideas, and especially if there are programs you're aware of that would be helpful, please drop links into this presentation, because you're going to have access to this presentation, to these slides afterwards. And it's going to be kind of a little repository of resources that might be useful to you as you provide, services to the people you serve. Whoop, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, so any suggestions of formal or informal resources that we could provide given the details we have? What are some formal resources that we could recommend for dad who has a history of child abuse and neglect and witnessing IPV? Any suggestions?
Joey, knowing that, we talk a lot about this in Davis County about mental health of men, and that there is some well-meaning, some resistance to reaching out and getting help. And I knew you were going to ask for a link, and now I'm looking for it. There is a great link that I have referred several men to that's an online support just for men. talking about their roles as fathers, as husbands, as providers with other men. So I'll see if I can find that link and drop it into the chat for you, because I have found that to be really valuable.
Perfect. Very good to hear. So that kind of gives an outlet that's feels a little bit safer. Sometimes, as Debbie mentioned, going to support groups or one-on-one counseling may not be something that men in particular, fathers in particular, might be feel comfortable with. So maybe that's actually an informal resource, because it's not something where you're actually sitting down with in a support group or anything.
Yeah, it's a
like
support
that.
group. It is a support
Oh, it
group.
is a support group.
Oh, yeah,
Okay, so
is
it
a
would.
support group.
Okay, very good, very good.
But it's just safe because it's online
Yeah,
and easy to access as different times.
yeah, good point. Very good point. Any other formal resources? Let's talk about mom feeling overwhelmed, feeling anxious. What are some services available that we could refer mom to?
Joey, I would recommend Postpartum International, because that can give local resources for their area. Here in Utah County, we use the Family Haven. We also use Wasatch Mental Health. We refer a lot of families to BYU Comprehensive Clinic because they have low-cost services for those who may not have insurance. But Postpartum International would be the connection for anyone in any area of the U.S.
Perfect. I got Family Haven and Wasatch Mental Health. What was the last one that you mentioned?
BYU Comprehensive Clinic uses their social work and mental health MCHCs that are in school, and they have a clinic that they do very low cost counseling services. So that's where we refer a lot.
Very good. One that comes to mind for me is home visiting. Seems like, and I don't know what sorts of income cutoffs there are, and that's one of the things that we talk about is, are there eligibility barriers? And so I don't know whether or not they make too much money, but I think home visiting would be a benefit to mom, because it can kind of give her, some one-on-one help within the home in dealing with some of her stressors and learning healthier coping mechanisms so that she can be present and healthy for her kids.
So like maybe parents as teachers or something like that.
Yeah, parents as teachers.
Parents as teachers would be great.
Yeah, for sure. Perfect.
We
Go ahead.
We have Welcome Baby at Utah County Health Department. So we do see a lot of these moms. They're often referred to us by the hospital for having a history of depression or anxiety. And so we're one of the programs that does that. And we do the Edinburgh screener, and can give moms some, kind of some ideas of how to navigate that postpartum time.
Right. Perfect. Okay, I knew we weren't going to have enough time to get through all of this to do this justice, but we just kind of wanted to give a kind of an idea of how this could work if you were to implement it with your partners. The next slide talks about social connections and information connections. So where are some places that they can make social connections and places they can make information connections? And again, I think that a good example of information connections would be 211. And it looks like we're just about out of time, but I hope that this kind of gives you an idea of how you would be able to implement this tool in your within the work that you're doing. And we're going to give you a template that you can take with you. You can write your own scenario and follow kind of this pattern, and it helps you kind of map where the gaps are within your area in services to treat specific families. So, what would how would this situation, this case study changed if this had been a non-English speaking family? What sorts of other barriers might that have created? Are there services that would be available if this was an immigrant family or, a refugee family? So different things that you consider and different elements that you could work into different case studies.
Hey, Joey, can I mention one thing real quick before
You
we
bet.
go? The one thing that I think is missing on this is right off the bat, we did not identify this family's strengths.
Good point. Yeah. Yeah. So I
And
think,
so we built off their deficits.
okay. So sorry that I know we didn't have near enough time to get through that and do it justice, but we just wanted to give you a quick idea of how you would be able to use a similar kind of a case study in determining what sorts of service gaps you might have within your region or within your community, so that you can decide, how do we solve this? How do we fill that gap? What services are we missing, and how do we overcome that? A really good point was brought out in our breakout group by Debbie Comstock. She said, I think the one thing that is missing from this case study is that we did not first identify the family's strengths. And I think that would be a really important element, additional element to work into this case study. At the end of this meeting, I'm going to provide you a link to a Google folder that will have all of the presentations, all of the presenters' information, and a basic outline of the case study in case you want to implement this in your own practices and with your own partners. Barb, will you take just a couple of minutes? I want to give a shout out to Barb because she was actually the one who recommended this. This is something that they do through Help Me Grow. And so Barb.
Not through Help Me Grow. We do it
Help Me
through
Grow.
our early child, our Utah County Partners for Families and Children. We've been doing case studies over the last 6 years, but about 3 years ago, we determined as a committee that we wanted to step it up and make it more intensive to get more information. And so we revamped the form that we use. And I love your suggestion, Deb. I'm going to actually do that. That will be added, and I'll send it to Joey because I do love that. And I'm so glad you pointed that out. But also, we assign someone every month. So each partner will come prepared with a case study and the additional information. And then we normally give like 10, 15 minutes to do this. So it's a pretty good, especially when it used to be live. Now when it's virtual, it's a little different. But the live one, we would have a lot of in-depth discussion, and we'd get deeper and deeper into understanding what was really available.
Absolutely. I think that's super important. So we're going to do a real quick report out. Trisha, give us just a couple of minutes on what came from your case study time.
Yep. We talked about a lot of the resources that we presented on work for this family, but some new ones we wanted to highlight is the healthymindsyutah.org that the Department of Substance Abuse and Mental Health runs. You can go there and click which county you live in and take a free screener for about 30 different potential issues. And it will help refer you to like your local mental health agency, health department, or resources to get some further help if needed. And then we also wanted to highlight that Dad works 2 jobs and likely has insurance or possible mental health resources from an employee assistance program. Maybe not, but definitely something to educate the family on, to ask about and learn about if they're not aware of that. I know my employer has like 8 free sessions of counseling per year. And then if you need ongoing support, they will refer you. And then if you'll switch slides for me to keep going. The last one we'll highlight is some maternal mental health resources. If you go to maternalmentalhealth.utah.gov, you can filter by county and filter by need related to anything for moms, dads, new babies, prenatal, birth. You can find prenatal yoga practitioners, help with infant loss, anything in that time of life. So there's some ideas. You can read through the rest of I try to put some links to some things, but.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Trisha's group. Barb's group.
So I couldn't bend anyone's arm to actually share, so I'll share. But we talked about the MAN therapy was one that was suggested, which is an online that really introduces healthy mental health for men, and there's a lot of fun videos, et cetera, to kind of make it a little bit less intimidating. There was also the Heads Up Guys.org .org, and they're in the chat. Marla put those in. And then Postpartum International was mentioned, and the one of the local community actions does some play groups and circles up in the north part of Utah. And so it would provide a place where the family could go and be connected to others. We talked about the Children's Center. We talked about BYU Comprehensive Clinic and some of the low-cost mental health providers that are out there. And then we also talked about some resources like parent guidance or things that were online that they could learn from. So there were a lot of different resources that were mentioned.
Perfect. Very good. Thank you, you guys. Vonda.
All right. So we talked about maybe having early head start, or because there are also slots for folks who are over income as well. People may or may not know that. We also talked about the fact that there are early intervention programs throughout the state of Utah if there was a child in the home who qualified for those services. Help Me Grow was another resource, of course, and then the 211 parental resources and my discovery destination. And then the fourth one we mentioned were family support centers, which are available throughout the state. And yet, we noted that like for several people in my group, they were at least 45 minutes or an hour away. And so, trying to get more parent or family support centers throughout the state.
Very good point.
Yeah. And then in terms of formal resources after learning more, the USU Healthy Relationship program has in-person, virtual, and online classes. And then they also have some dad-specific classes as well. UCASA has resources for sexual abuse survivors. And that, as the dad's beginning to disclose abuse, there might be more than what he has already said. So that's just a resource. Southwest Mobilization Team. That's something that's available in the southwest part of the state, where there's immediate help for violence, but also they're there to support parents with discipline issues, or basically whatever parents need. And of course, we do have different mobilization teams in different parts of the state. I don't know if they're actually statewide. The Utah Parent Center, and then an informal thing was Facebook.
Perfect. And looks like you ran out of time like we did. Understandable. Some really good ideas were coming out. With our group, we pretty much felt like all of the programs that were presented today would be really helpful, especially in providing fun activities that that the family could engage in that wouldn't cost anything. And one of those that wasn't mentioned, before was going to the library. They do story time, Lego time, they do some toddler time. And so that would be a really fun resource for the family just to spend some time at the library. And then after we learned a little bit more about dad, we realized that, mental health for men can be difficult. Deb was talking about an online support group. So it's a little less threatening for men. They're not sitting in a room together, but they're still engaging in a supportive group of men talking about these issues. And Deb, I don't know if you were able to locate a link on that, but we also—
I think it's the one that Barb was talking about in her group, because it sounds like the same one. I just can't find the link.
Okay.
That
No
man
problem.
therapy. Yeah.
Perfect. Again, we also talked about Postpartum International and a couple of different places within the state that are members or participate in Postpartum International. We also talked about Parents as Teachers, and Utah County Health Department has a program called Welcome Baby that might be helpful to this family. And then we kind of ran out of time, didn't get through everything. We felt like an information connection that is really good for families to know about, obviously, is 211, because it's kind of a hub that can connect you with different places. Social connections, we didn't really get to talk about, but definitely if there's an avenue for dad to talk to his pastor, if there's a relationship there, that's a good social connection. Local support groups, anything that we can do to encourage dads and men in general to seek help is super important and beneficial, because we know that's a population that really struggles acknowledge that there's maybe a problem and then reach out to access the help that they need. So this was just kind of a really quick run through of this case study. And we're going to provide you with kind of the bare bones of how you would put together your own case studies. Barb has been gracious enough to provide us with her what's the word I'm looking for, her template for those. And so you're in the information that you'll receive after this meeting, you'll have access to that. I'm going to pop, actually, Nathan, do you want to pop the evaluation into the chat? Nathan's going to put the evaluation link into the chat. These evaluations are super important to letting us know what is working, what has been valuable, and what we can do to improve this educational opportunity. I also wanted to let you know that moving forward, probably in September, we don't have dates set up yet, but we will be doing 2 additional presentations. One about the QRIS system, the quality ratings information system for childcare. So parents can know there's a resource where they can go learn about quality childcare available in their area. We'll also hear more about childcare subsidies and how to access them. And we're also going to hear from Nick Dunn and researchers at the Kem C. Gardner Institute about a family-friendly workplace policy survey that they did across the state to help us better understand what the landscape looks like for families and parents, and kind of identifying, what we need to do to improve access to these things so that parents can have a good work-life balance and be there for their kids. Just a reminder that if you are going to be applying for, now I've lost it, let's see. If you are going to be applying for any of the for CHES credits, CHES or MCHES credits, you do need to follow this, the information on this sheet. So I'm going to pop this into the chat as well. This will also be mailed out to you afterwards. But you do need to follow these instructions if you are going to apply for CHES or MCHES credits.
And
So
same
there's-
for CEUs, Joey. People are
I'm sorry.
asking. And the
What was that?
CEUs, is it the same for the social work CEUs?
Social work CEUs, you're on your own applying for those. This is approved because it's sponsored by a state agency. So you just need to go ahead and put in your application. You need to make sure that you have documentation of your attendance and fill out the evaluation, and you should be good to go. But I think we're good. I want to thank Barbara Levitt, Tricia Reynolds, and Vonda Jump Norman for presenting this really amazing information about services that are available out there. I hope that this case study activity has given you ideas of how you, Erin, are you asking about, so Erin's wondering how you apply on your own.
You don't really need to apply for CEUs. You just document them. And as long as it's provided by an approved agency, which the Health and Human Services, we're an approved agency, you're good.
You should get credit. Okay, yeah. And I'm not as familiar with that. And I always defer to Tricia. She's kind of the one that has the information on that side of the CEU conversation. Thank you again so much for your attendance and for your participation. And we look forward to seeing you again in the future. Thank you.